Welcome to Have You Seen This? The world's only podcast about obscure, overlooked, and misbegotten visual media. All discussions will be spoiler heavy. You have been warned.
Okay, is everybody running their recorders?
Yeah, I'm playing the recorder right now.
I probably have way too much time already. I'm at 152.
Yeah,
That's fine.
157, so...
As long as we're all running, I see Sean is recording the call, so I think we're good. I think we're redundant enough that it'll be fine.
Screen to share.
As long as Jen doesn't record anything, we should be alright.
Let's officially start before anything breaks again, although I'm sure my Wi-Fi will be like, oh, what were we doing? I'm sorry. Alright. No shout-outs. So, okay, here we go. 3, 2. Welcome to...
Wow, she called that. She called that. That's fantastic. That's beautiful.
Oh my god.
Damn. You couldn't time that better.
That is the key to comedy.
That's a good joke right there. I would see them come back on like, you planned that, didn't you?
Dad, stop torrenting.
That's like calling your own number in basketball. It's like, take the street and it's going down. And switch.
Oh, that was a little
Christ
too
almighty.
perfect.
Yeah, that was a good. Put that on.
Okay.
So, Jen, are you here?
I'm
That was
getting there.
fantastic. That was a
Yeah.
great joke.
That was
You do
some...
that next week, the kids loved it.
All right, I'm going to try it again, and then let's see if the Wi-Fi fails again. Okay, here we go. 3, 2. Welcome to Have You Seen This? It's Jen.
Then Tim.
Timmy,
And
Timmy, Timmy, Timmy. Go Timmy, go Timmy, go Timmy.
I can't say the rest of that guy's name.
I can't either.
Tommy Hill something or other.
Oh,
Yeah. So thankfully, we Jen and I share a black friend, professional black friend.
You don't want to have too many because people talk. So Tim and I have our normal professional black friend here to speak to you about this particular Spike Lee joint. It is Sean Morris. Sean, it's nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Hi, everybody. Happy new
Death.
Happy new death. It's really apropos. We had no idea how apropos that was.
Yeah. Oh
We
man.
just thought it was something funny you say when you bust a cap in a motherfucker's ass in GoldenEye. But
25-year-old joke for 4 people.
and yet it's very apropos.
And yet here we are. Yeah.
And yet it describes everything perfectly.
Now, I didn't know Bamboozled was from 2000. I thought it was earlier than that.
Yeah, you should have known it was 2000 because it has the exact same problem as another 2000 movie, Steven Spielberg's AI, where the movie's supposed to end and then 40 more minutes happen.
I thought that the very 2000 problem with this movie was that it was shot on mini DV.
That was also the problem with AI.
With that, because we're looking at it now, looking at this movie, like we remember Time Code, which is like
I remember Time Code. Yep.
And you're like, wow,
hype
no
around
one's
Time
ever
Code.
gonna watch this format of film again. And then I remembered everyone watches this form of film all day long, either for work or pleasure. So you're talking like everything you're gonna see in the world is gonna be through this fucked up.
Yeah, like I don't think Spike Lee could have done any worse than shooting a movie in 2000s in like the vertical format.
I was like, this man made a YouTube video 7 minutes before YouTube, 7 years before YouTube. That's prescient right there.
Yeah, you thought the content was prescient. It was the format that was where it's at.
It did occur to me while I was watching the Timmy Boop ad that it resembled
something.
Yeah, it resembled a YouTube sketch because that's in some ways about the level of satire we got here, but for about the first 2/3 it does generally hit the target, but then
very smart.
Yeah, but then it kind of falls apart. But what are we actually talking about today?
Well, we got Sean here to use all the words and slang that we aren't allowed to.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, we have
knocking boots.
Yep. Oh yeah,
that's say knocking boots.
Right.
We do be down.
Now, I'm like Spike Lee. No one has said knocking boots since 1992. But of course, that's when he was young. So that's like, yeah.
He's very cutting edge. So we are watching.
Bamboozled is a portmanteau of the producers, network, and Aunt Kizzy's. I'm not saying the name of that. No, anyway, it's a delightful fable about Damon Wayans playing Pierre Delacroix. But what's his real name? Peerless? Because he has a black name. Peerless, like he has a Spike Lee real name. Because Spike Lee names his actual real people names. Their names are Flipper and Gator.
Right.
Yeah.
He switches code.
So his name is Peerless, his birth name, and he's decided to change it to Pierre Delacroix.
But he still talks in this very studied way, which is more palatable to white people.
Completely made up voice, as we find out later in the movie when he runs into his father.
Mm-hmm.
Great use of Paul Mooney.
Yeah, Paul Mooney is great in this.
He's the son of Paul Mooney. Pierre Delacroix is an executive. Is he an executive or is he like a head writer?
He's like a showrunner, I think.
He's like a showrunner,
yeah.
He's the show creator. He's he would be like the early Tyler Perry, Kenya Barris.
Ooh,
but honestly, he's more of a frustrated Matthew Weiner because, let's be honest about this character.
That's exactly.
He has thoroughly adopted whiteness.
Yeah, he talks like Kermit the Frog.
Mm-hmm. Kind of
years
Jeff
before
Bezos
Jordan
voice.
Peterson.
Mm-hmm. Or Jordan Peterson. And all of his intelligent black shows aren't popular because audiences want ignorance, of course.
Right, as we are told directly in the first
by everyone's favorite white person who thinks he's allowed to say nigga, Michael Rappaport.
Now, when this movie came out,
if you have Spike Lee's phone number, I think you're allowed. That's as close as you're going to get.
I mean,
when this movie came out, I didn't realize at the time that Michael Rappaport was basically playing himself.
He was playing himself as a TV executive. Like, what would you do if you had control over a lot of programming?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Podcast, but he actually controls the cable. It's got to be a cable network because the show is uncensored. So he's like the host of a cable network, not the host.
Like a program? Yeah.
He's
the programming executive.
Yeah.
All of he says, Pierre, you have the most talent. And I'm not saying it because he doesn't talk like this. He talk like this.
It's the old switcheroo.
Yeah. He's like, he did. Yeah. Don't be hating. I mean, Eminem listening to going, why are you talking like that?
Yeah, he's kind of this
I have a black wife, so I'm allowed to say nigga. I forgot it was also there was a big controversy around that time about, and it kind of went away and then came back again when Django happened, but he and Tarantino always had a back and forth about the use of characters in his films saying the N-word at large in any shape or form. And
because Tarantino's a bit of a Rappaport himself in that respect.
He is. But he makes sure Samuel L. Jackson says it the right way.
Right.
Samuel, allowed. You went to Morehouse. No. So he doesn't like his proper shows about the Black Headmaster or the
the Cosby Show is kind of the crux of this.
Adopted by Asians. Only Michael Rappaport doesn't say Asians. He uses
the Michael Rappaport word.
He basically uses the J.K. Rowling name for an Asian character in Harry Potter.
He uses the word that got Shane Gillis canned from SNL before he even started.
We're not saying that word, but if you'd like to click on "Celebrate Your Differences" from Wonder Shows, you will hear that word.
Oh yeah.
But he doesn't like.
We highly recommend Wonder Shows, by the way. It's on the Internet Archive.
I had to
Good,
take
because it's an important piece of cultural history.
My Bamboozled videotape, and I was like, "Oh, Wonder Show's still in there. Awesome,
nice."
But to celebrate anyway. So he doesn't like his programming, and he decides, okay.
Well, he decides
I'm going to get fired.
Yes.
Yeah,
because he wants to make the worst. These are like, oh, you want ignorance? I'm going to give you the most ignorant, backwards thing I can think of.
Just something that's completely offensive to any sensible person.
Unfortunately, that thing was the number one form of entertainment the last time it was that prevalent and heavily available, and it happens again. Oops.
Right.
He,
of course, pitched Married with Children.
Oh, man, I wish.
Or was it The Simpsons? I mean, yeah.
I'm proposing this show never goes off the air, and we keep the voice actors alive.
They've said enough phonemes, we can use their voices forever.
Yes, so they're making a variety show set in a watermelon patch. Starring,
which, hasn't been done before.
Mantan, the tap dancing New Millennium Negro, and his friend Sleep and Eat, Savion Glover, and Tommy Davidson. So you got Damon Wayans and Tommy Davidson. So they know how to do comedy and satire from In Living Color and impressions and whatnot. And you're like, this is a really interesting premise.
Yes.
Savion Glover, like you've never Savion him before.
Yes, it's a far cry from Sesame Street. That's where it started. It's my first.
Now, that's the basic premise. And before we get into it, a little bit of background on this movie. So this film was obviously, I think we said it came out in 2000. As I mentioned, shot on mini DV tape, apart from the minstrel show segments, which I believe were shot on 16, which is why they pop so nicely. But
and those tapes are not around anymore. Those tapes do not work.
Oh yeah, they're powder. But
can I get these transferred to no?
But regardless, this was, like I said, shot on digital video, which was kind of an up and coming format at the time. And I know that when mainstream movies were shot on video in 2000, everything looked like dog shit on the big screen. The technology was not quite there.
Absolutely.
This actually looks pretty good on the small screen, but
it does.
I think if we were to see a print of it, it would look like garbage. But Spike Lee wanted the ability to kind of keep costs down as well as shoot with multiple cameras, like I think up to 15 cameras.
It's a lot of cameras.
Wild.
Yeah.
But it is, I will give him credit. It's very snappily edited, and it maybe it is the small screen, but it does look a little bit better than I remember.
It feels more like the variety show that the movie was promising. It's a variety show format in editing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and as long as they stick to like interiors, I mean, like if you're working with like natural sunlight, there's not as much latitude in DV, so things are like blown out. If they aren't working with like low light where everything gets all muddy.
And he had tried it in certain parts of Clockers for like not dream scene, but like certain scenes as like experiment, his little artistic flourishes. But he hadn't filmed an entire movie. Or the bulk of a movie.
Like I said, like considering the limitations of the technology at the time, I mean, this was shot with, I believe it was Sony's first prosumer video camera, which retailed for about $3,500 at the time.
It's like what Robert Blake used in Lost Highway.
Oh, there you go. So,
I'm not exactly sure if that's accurate, but it's close.
I remember that just being a security camera he was holding sideways. But
the other thing,
this reads as a security camera.
Yep.
But the other thing to remember about this movie is that it came out in theaters and it flopped. It made no money. But I guess
a movie about a minstrel show, and you actually film a minstrel show.
I mean,
I remember
that's
at the
a license
time,
to print money.
I remember at the time, even in my younger, naive 20-something days watching this at the movie theater I worked at, I was like, okay, well, this is like a satire, right? And, people get what Spike Lee is about, so they have to get it right. But no, it flopped. But it is one of the Criterion Collection now. It's not on the channel, but you can get a DVD of it. I don't know that it's streaming anywhere, but
I have it on video cassette.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the real format, that or real player. I mean, it's really have the quality come through.
Look for the. I wonder if you click on like a YouTube stream of it, it becomes self-aware and destructs.
I thought for a second that we were conducting this podcast recording on Real Player the way it was going. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you can watch it at.
I think I got Windows Media Player or something here somewhere.
Yeah, or it's native, 144.
Yeah, like
Bamboozled.
There's the part. There's the part. There's the big climactic part where they capture Man Ray and they're gonna kill him on a live stream. I'm like, oh, you guys are gonna live stream in the year 2000. Good luck with that. No one's gonna see it.
No one's gonna watch an execution video on an internet stream.
Did he get shot? Is that? Oh, it says buffering.
In 2000, there's no way anyone saw that.
Yeah, no one
Unless
was.
They were in the alternate 2000 where technology had already caught up with them.
I mean,
no one would see that until LiveLeak was invented. So
right,
yeah, 5 more years before that video gets seen by anybody.
You can download the saved version of the video off of was it like Hotline or Hotwire?
No,
if you're in the dorms,
and he just decided I'm going to make a movie set in 2008.
Yeah, there you go.
He never said what year it was.
Right. Yeah, and it was the web page that showed the countdown. That was one of those like retro. It was like an Angel Fire page. Yeah.
I time traveled hard when I saw that. It was like being at the Computer History Museum.
It's like watching 80 cell phones.
Yeah.
I think they're viewing it in Netscape Navigator. Yeah.
But yeah, so this was not. Well, I feel like it did get a little bit of.
It got some good critical reviews.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, exactly.
Some good critical. It was not nominated for any awards.
Yeah, but
not even like home video award.
No.
But as is often common with movies that we talk about on this show, it didn't really find its audience at the time, and I don't know.
It's me and my family.
Yeah. Because I know you and I.
One other person I introduced it to.
Yeah, and I know that Sean and I have evoked this movie many times, but it was interesting to revisit it. And while it is, it's not as flawed as the movie we just did, The Keep, but it is significantly flawed. But I think still worth a look. Tim, I want to hear what you thought about this, because I don't know if you'd seen this in full before.
I don't think I told Tim about this movie.
I mean, I was aware of it, but I didn't see it when it came out, mostly because, thank you, Sean. Like, I pretty much only understood Spike Lee as sort of a, like, kind of shallow reactionary filmmaker. So I was kind of expecting that from the movie. Going in and watching it, you don't really get that until, like Sean mentioned earlier, until, like, the second half of the movie.
And it's not like a light goes off. It's just, it kind of is going along. You're like, okay. Yeah. And then all of a sudden your eyes glaze over. And you find yourself in like a relationship drama. And they're squabbling with each other. And then some people pull some guns out. And like, how did we get here? Yeah,
you just kind of blink and you missed your exit. It's
I think they kind of took they just kind of veered. You drift in the road. And they kept drifting and drifting and drifting. And next thing you know,
they're in the ditch.
The tree. Yeah, there's a tree in front of you.
Because the way that I saw this movie when it came out is I was working at the movie theater as a projectionist, and I used to walk the different screens to make sure everything was okay. We were running everything on a platter system, and I saw this movie almost in its entirety in pieces. And I remember my impression was like.
Parts of this, did I forget a reel?
And I just remember parts of this were so goddamn funny, and then I would walk in. Yeah, and then I would walk in on Jada Pinkett crying and waving a gun. And I was like, "What? Huh?
How did this happen?
How we get here?"
It's very similar to your experience specifically. It's like you're like in a YouTube thing and you're just clicking on random videos and you're like, oh look, it's a parody commercial. Timmy Hill nigger, that's hilarious.
I typed Spike Lee.
Paul Mooney stand up, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's like, wait, did you fuck him? Did you like? I don't care.
Yeah, I typed Spike Lee into YouTube, and then I set it to autoplay.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
It does have that feel, because I feel as though he had a really who's credited as writer? Did he write this himself?
It's okay. He has the sole credit.
So he had a strong premise, but he didn't know how to end it.
And it's kind of all like the characters look at each other, and they kind of look. They don't literally do this, but they kind of look at each other, and then they kind of like, is someone gonna? What do we do next?
Yeah.
Spike Lee is like, I don't know. Now you get into a soap opera plot, and then you start shooting at each other because
big brown shark came.
Now I kind of had a mini epiphany thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's really that. I don't know if it's as deep as I thought it was. But since, it's a minstrel show, he kind of turned the movie into like the modern, like he said, it was the New Millennium Negro. So it was like the New Millennium Minstrel Show, which is, really the end of the movie is a TV One movie. If we're going to 100, it's a true crime soap opera that you don't really care about, but you keep watching it. For My Man. Yeah. That was the other name of the other show I was thinking about, For My Man.
It's like you started on Comedy Central and then you turned over to TV One for some reason.
It really is. And you're like, wow, this In Living Color episode is brilliant. And then there's like fake blood on the ground and...
Yeah.
And there's like some cartoonish rapper. They're like that's kind of stuff. That's like a BET movie level portrayal of like
man,
group.
It's BET
revolutionaries, and he doesn't know anything of. Because he went to a black college, and that's kind of his mindset. He thinks anyone that's like a revolutionary is just a dumb criminal, so that they just talk like idiots.
Well,
I like when they go, "No, I'm saying, no, I mean, no, I'm saying, no, I mean."
Yeah,
like a conversation. It's funny.
Yeah, because
but it's cartoonish.
that struck me as well. Like rewatching the movie is like just how cartoonish the Mau Mau's are, and it's like, like I know that Pierre Delacroix is a bit of a cartoon, and there is a lot of cartoonish shit in this movie, but it doesn't quite ring right with the Mau Mau's because it's this whole liberal thing of like, oh well,
they get talked down to constantly, and most it's like the leader of the Mau Mau's. He's Jada Pinkett Smith. Can we just call her Niobe? The rest of it.
Just call her Niobe, yeah.
Niobe.
She's
brother,
good in this movie until the ending, and she's terrible.
Well, yeah, that's terrible. The problem. Is everyone is good in this movie until the ending.
Turns terrible.
Yeah, it's like, what else are you gonna do?
They don't know what to do with it.
I thought they were setting up a death by Mau Mau joke, but maybe that's just me and my League of Gentlemen history.
Yeah, that's
and let's talk a little bit about the Mau Mau's because I actually found this kind of interesting. As I'm sure most of our listeners know because they're smart people or they've read Born Free. The Mau Mau's were it was a Kenyan rebellion against the British government. So the Mau Mau's in this movie, of course, like they're positioned as these kind of like woke rappers who have labeled themselves after these like actual like this actual like resistance movement. But the way that they're portrayed is like they're just
kind of cartoony villains, basically. They're cartoony villains. They drink a lot and they want to record rap songs.
And the thing is like
when they're introduced. The woman who's talking to, does she even say something like, I don't know why we're in a scene? Or did I mishear?
Maybe. They were doing a lot of improvising because it's some rap, like Cannabis and some other rappers are playing them out. I didn't do any like casting research here, but yeah.
No, that's fine.
A bunch of
the one white guy in the crew actually does have a rap background, I believe. But the point I was getting to is that while Jada Pinkett Smith, excuse me again, while Jada's character is obviously like, she's pretty condescending to her brother.
Extremely. I'm not even going to say a little.
Yeah.
Extremely condescending.
Yeah, she's very condescending, and it has a lot to do with, her, like, kind of social class in spite of obviously, like...
I mean, the thing is, she has a point, but that's because the characters are written as alcoholic criminals.
Right, and as she says to her brother at one point... As she says to her brother at one point, she says, "Y'all are embarrassing. Y'all are ignorant. Y'all ignorant.
Pull your pants up."
Yeah,
yes.
it's all those, like, it's like a checklist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the, House Negro, versus,
now that is
like,
a great joke,
ignorant
though,
thing.
where she says, "Get your field nigga ass out of my house, nigga house." Hilarious. Hilarious.
I actually like that
good.
scene. The other bit that I like is and
that's
this
in the
is
beginning
another...
of the movie, and the tone is right, and it's snappy.
Yeah, that's when it's good.
And
before just for some reason the movie just like goes off a cliff. Yeah.
Right, and this is another thing which I've evoked to Sean a couple of times. The name that her brother has adopted for himself, Big Black Africa. Every time we talk about the music of Big Black Delta, I want to call it Big Black Africa.
Or Big Baby Africa, or Big Baby, or not Big Baby Africa, Big Baby Jesus. Big, his name is Big Africa, the guy from Jungle Brothers, who was the friend Baker in Living Large.
Oh,
his
shit.
name was Big Africa, I believe. Something Africa.
Living Large, which we covered on an earlier episode of...
His name is Something Africa. And it's
Is there a bigger, blacker Africa? Want to...
bigger, blacker, and uncut.
Yeah, there is.
But that's the wrong account. Sorry.
But I do like the line. And am I allowed to laugh at this? But the line where Yassine Bey, billed as Mos Def at the time, says to her, "At least I don't want to call myself Mafufu."
Yeah, that was great. That's Eddie Murphy callback.
Yeah. I'm like, these are, because I mean, everything everyone I know, about black culture is from, Sean, In Living Color, and Eddie Murphy stand
up.
Yeah,
so we're the only ones who know all about black culture. I mean, that was pretty much all of white adults in the 1980s.
Right.
What it was like to be black from Eddie Murphy stand up.
Hey, Sean, let me tell you this Mr. She joke that I just heard.
Yeah. Funny shit. That was a deliberate callback to Eddie Murphy, who was groundbreaking at his racial comedy, and he loved doing stereotypes. I mean, even Norbit, which I kind of realize why people find that movie disgusting, but it's a cartoon, and I think it's.
And Mooney's in there. He's making a lot of the same observations, but like he's doing it well. So I mean, that's kind of
he does it very well.
Yeah,
but did you know Mfufu was spelled UMFUFU? Because I kept typing OON. I thought it was OON Fufu, and then I saw Mfufu is what the internet decided how that's spelled.
Oh, I thought it was UNFUFU.
It's Fufu.
Oh,
I just know that they left out the on the subtitles. They left out the exclamation points, which are supposed to indicate the tongue clicks.
You can't do anything with that.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I wonder what's going to be.
Eddie Murphy plays it like since time no longer exists. Cable programming and television programming time doesn't exist. Nothing ever goes off the air anymore. So they play Eddie Murphy Raw on Showtime at like 3 p.m. on a Tuesday.
That's when you need him the most.
Watching this and going, come on. Oh, you just saw Rocky. Look, little Italian white man. Like, those are benchmarks. They're NBA games where people are saying it wasn't me. And they're saying, like, Eddie Murphy. They're not talking about Shaggy. They said, like, Eddie Murphy. Oh, wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
Somebody sang remember he was drunk and messing up the Motown songs? That was on one of the sports channels. He sang, nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
I remember that. I remember I'm halfway down now.
That has not been on television, unfortunately.
It's a shame.
That's early 80s comedy, and there's a lot of, that's different.
Yeah. So there is good comedy in this. I mean, you've got Damon Wayans. He's got his bona fides. Jada, whatever. She's great. That pitch meeting alone, I think, is hilarious.
God. There are very big belly laughs in this movie.
And that's funny that I like the juxtaposition there. I don't like Mos Def talking shit about Master P because Master P was the man at the time. Right. But he said, we actually talk about real shit. We know, putting on records. And then when they do the pitch meeting and he's saying the things, he said character names, Michael Rappaport's going,
The thing is, when he talked shit on Master P, I imagined Tim going, "That's right."
about it. You just heard about it.
You just heard about it. Oh yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's there and kind of like society, because we live in a society.
Mm-hmm.
There's elitism on elitism, as in Michael Rappaport is over Damon Wayans and tells him what to do, and then Damon Wayans, instead of saying, I'm not going to treat anybody beneath me like that, proceeds to treat Jada Pinkett the exact same way, who treats her younger brother.
Yeah,
and pretty much exploits Mantan.
I know that Spike Lee has gotten some criticism for how he has written women
character. Like that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Every female character except for the one his sister wrote.
One day, perhaps he will meet a woman.
Yeah.
Nope,
like
now goes in the
Betty
square
Shabazz, right, because he had an actual person to compare to. Other than that,
I mean, I will say that I didn't feel like Jada's character was that bad.
She was one of the developed ones.
Yeah.
Which is because she turns into like a soap opera character for about 45 minutes.
But
didn't say she developed well.
She had her own agenda, and she was the smartest member of the cast.
And it did
and she was always doing the actual research on what happened in minstrel shows and all the memorabilia that was around, because it was the number one entertainment of the time, and there was always cookie jars and piggy banks, and merchandise. And
I thought that was her just channeling Spike Lee.
And well, I definitely want to get to that stuff, but what I want to say about Jada's character Sloane is that she is believable as kind of like an upwardly mobile woman who is encountering sexism in the office because, Pierre relies very heavily on her, but then he ultimately ends up treating her with contempt because, they slept together one time and, he kind of throws it in her face. So, it's like, okay, I bought that. I do agree with Sean that it just kind of turns soapy, and that's and the thing is that, I know I've talked to both of you guys about this, is that she's not the greatest actress, but in this,
she does a good job.
In this, she's very, very good. I love the scene.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this was a bad performance. This is a very good performance.
And she even kind of does that same kind of bemused look in the pitch meeting as you and I recall from the Clumps. So
yes.
Oh, she is so funny in all of the meeting scenes.
Reactions because, she sees everyone eating this up.
She's very good in she's very good in all the pitch meeting scenes. She's really good in the scene with Yassine Bey, the
audition scene. She's excellent in as well.
Oh, that audition!
And that
scene
movie
is great.
Really predicted so many things that we'd all be watching crappy quality videos all the time. It also predicted watching people do bad auditions all the time.
And we'll definitely get to that.
How did you think of all this before it happened?
But I do want to say she's great until she loses her mind and goes to Pierre's office with a gun. She is so bad in that scene.
Yeah, that is some
taken
undergrad
aback.
film
It's
school
a completely different
writing.
character, but you have to remember her brother had just been killed, so I guess she just snapped.
Well, yeah, and the thing is I get that.
Scene cut for time.
I mean, the motivation
this is the scene. They cut out the part where she descends into madness.
I mean, but that's the thing is you can say that the motivation is there even if it's drawn in very soapy or cartoonish strokes.
But again, this is why Spike Lee has issues with female characters because she's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about purely her performance. That is the worst fake crying I've ever seen.
Well, they just kind of sprayed her with condensation.
They just undo your hair a little. Now you're crazy.
Yeah.
Put this strand of hair up, and we're gonna spray you with mist, You've been sweating for some reason. Like, she's not crying unless she's just really sweaty.
Yeah, but you know what? She's better than she was in Matrix Resurrections.
I thought she was.
Oh, she was in Matrix Resurrections?
Age makeup. I had no problem with that.
I thought that was like a lump of clay, like a puppet.
I like her age makeup face. I like the age makeup face. It's better than her bad mom's face. But Girl Strip is very funny. My family used to watch Girl Strip for multiple years because she did not like Jada Pinkett's face anymore. But we don't need to talk about that.
Give her back her old face.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, at that point in the movie, I don't know if I said it to myself at one point, but the movie had already gone off the rails. It's kind of around the point where the show becomes popular. And it was supposed to be a prank to get him fired, to be like, oh, see, you're in trouble now. Look how unpopular the show was. And then, of course, it becomes a hit. Mm-hmm. And he decides, I'm going to roll with this. You know what?
Yeah.
They're giving me the keys of the kingdom. And he kind of gives over to it. And at first, it's really funny that he just gives over to it. And it's kind of like if
he gets a couple of awards for it.
If anybody's seen Don't Look Up, it's like when DiCaprio embraces his role as Fauci and just starts deceiving the people in the media.
Oh, I didn't watch that shit because I canceled Netflix.
Yeah, it's fine. But I've seen better. It's not awful. But he wins the award, and that reference is probably only a certain people that follow the award season remembers that. But there was a year, it had to have been that year or previous year, where Ving Rhames won an award, and he went up to win the award, and he said, "I don't deserve this award. Jack Lemmon does. I love Jack Lemmon, and he was better than me," and gives his award to Jack Lemmon. It was a direct parody of that, and I was like, "That's brilliant."
Yeah.
Completely lost the time, but that actually happened.
I did not remember that, but what prompted Ving Rhames to do that is what I'd like to know.
He really thought Jack Lemmon was really good in 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, fair enough.
So Jack Lemmon was just a presenter, like he hadn't been in a movie that year?
No, he was nominated for 12 Angry Men.
For Grumpy Old Men.
No, it was 12 Angry Men.
No. So there's just the two of them then.
It was 2 years before this. He won for Don King. And there they are. He just actually handed it to him.
Wait, but Jack Lemmon was not a presenter. He was also nominated?
He was another nominee.
Oh, okay.
He won for Don King. Jack Lemmon was the lead.
So that moment had nothing to do with Ted Danson in blackface, because I was waiting for something like that.
No, unfortunately, that didn't happen. And it's funny, pretty much the actual show that they make is exactly like the Ted Danson roast. Like, that's the material they were doing. And
so it was quality.
The two of them were yucking it up, just staring at each other. I'm like, you thought Kim and Kanye was a better relationship. You didn't see you sweet summer child. You know what we lived through.
No idea.
Yeah, all those people who watch
they made a movie together.
All those people who watch The Good Place do not even know about Ted and Whoopi.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Another precious moment lost to time.
It's just like how everyone is It's just like how everyone is aghast about Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox, but they don't remember Billy Bob and Angelina.
Oh, it's just everything old is new again.
Yeah, that is
true. Wait, Machine Gun Kelly, wouldn't he be dead for 40 years?
No, this is the reincarnated Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, wow, they brought him back.
He animated his body and made him like a SoundCloud rapper, rocker.
That sounds awful. I'm glad I'd never leave my apartment.
So badly by Eminem, he said, "I'm going to go make MTV pop rock."
Sick.
He's never going to take me seriously as a rapper again. So it worked out for him.
But anyway, the minstrel show stuff is interesting because they Spike Lee definitely knew his material because a lot of that.
Because he kept putting it in the movie.
Oh yeah, and a lot of the aspects of their show, like just the fact that they're named, the two leads are named Mantown and Sleep and Eat. Those are names of actual
people. people.
actors from back in the day who were black men, but they were playing these really degrading.
Had blackface a lot of the time.
Yeah, they were playing these really degrading step and fetch it type roles. In fact, like I believe I saw somewhere that Willie Best, who played Sleep and Eat, like for a while he wasn't even credited with his real name. They just called him Sleep and Eat, like in the credits.
And no one's here for Willie Best.
Like he was owned by the studio.
Well, exactly, and I think that's why.
What does that sound like?
And I think that's why a lot of the satire of this movie is like uncomfortable as it is, because a lot of the minstrel shit feels really bad to watch, but you're like, well,
that's because it's vaudeville, and vaudeville has not aged well.
Yeah, they're old jokes. They're not even laughing jokes. They're hee-haw jokes.
Yeah, they're terrible jokes.
They put the cardinal sin. There's a clip, because it's kind of a clip show as well. There's clips of a lot of minstrel show clips, both as research and both as Spike Lee likes to be inventive. So he'll have clips of people and their caricatures as callbacks. Pigmeat Markham shows up, which I enjoy. Here Comes the Judge, because laughing owns. But like they're not doing Here Come the Judge. They're doing like the guy that danced next to Shirley Temple.
It's the stuff that you see. You'll occasionally see on Turner Classic Movies when you're going through the channels. And you're like, what?
When your dad's asleep in front of the TV.
You're like, what's this part of Now Voyager that I don't remember with the servants? It's not actually Now Voyager, but it's a movie from that era, and like the servants will come in. And you're like, what?
Yeah, and
who are these people supposed to be?
And when I was researching it, it really hit me because, like, I've watched my share of, classic era Hollywood movies. And you're like, oh, yeah, like, they really just didn't fucking put black people in the movies at all unless they were, like, train attendants or whatever.
Yeah. Train attendants, servants, and hobos.
Yeah. And, that leads...
You kind of see what the whole Nichelle Nichols thing is in context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true, because, and I know that we've talked a lot on the show about kind of the hollowness of current identity politics and how, a lot of people seem like they'd just be happy if like, oh, we get a few black people on TV and movies.
And what's really good is that the way, because he thinks the show's going to be a flop and it's going to be picketed, but it's not a flop and it's still picketed. And then they have like a training session or like a group session where he has to be the face to defend it. Like, this show can't be racist. A black man created it. And the things they say, he's like, mention the community a lot and wear kente cloth. And I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
How many things did this man predict?
Right.
Did you have to 2020?
Yeah, there are all these kind of BS ways to like spin something that's, not indefensible.
Because
I hear you, I see you, I'm kneeling on your neck.
Yeah. Like, but that whole scene where they get like an outside consultant to come in and tell them like, okay, here's how you're going to spin this. And like,
it's like you employ a lot of black people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
those characters are always well written because those are like the people he actually interacts with all the time.
See, there's your well written
condescending, rich white people really well. Why is that?
Yeah. And it's like, it's very weird that like 22 years later after this movie came out, it's like it almost like there are parts of it which are still like just brutally apt. Like
anything about the TV show stuff and how the writers weren't good and how white people are allowed to say the N-word because they have black kids.
Yeah.
Or just the is it MC Search? I believe it is MC Search is the MC Search. Charlie Baltimore. I thought it was a different rapper. Charlie Baltimore, Cannabis, and I can't remember. But they're also their names are Hard Black, Double Black, Mo Black, Charlie Baltimore, Smooth Black. That would be the woman, and MC Search is 1/16 Black. His actual rap name. So he wasn't just yelling that at the end. That was his actual rap name, character name.
Yes.
I don't know. That's actually pretty clever. I think
it's very funny. It's very funny. Those characters start off funny, and then you're kind of like, this is condescending. Like, originally they wanted a revolution, but then they just decided to become like kidnappers.
Well, it's like this picture of leftism, like actual activism, is kind of like, oh, we're gonna kidnap and kill,
kidnap a white dude,
Moro kind of shit. Let's kidnap a white dude.
Let's find the lightest skinned person responsible and shoot him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, again, like Sean pointed out, everything old is new again. And a lot of like this treatment of the Mau Mau characters is like reading like liberal Twitter accounts.
Exactly like it.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, like, these people they just go too far. And like, everyone who voted for Bernie is just cosplaying, and like they don't, and it's like, okay, well, like, I know you don't know any actual organizers. Like,
can you imagine?
I don't know if Spike Lee does either.
If people were mad at Susan Sarandon in 2000.
I do.
Like, damn you, the Banger Sisters star! You stopped Al Gore from being president.
I do find it darkly.
No. Sorry, go ahead, Tim. Please.
I was gonna say I do find it darkly humorous that when the that after spoiler alert, after they assassinate not Man Ray but that's his name. Yeah, I guess his real name. Man Ray. After the gang assassinates him, then they're all killed by cops except for the white guy who was arrested.
116 Black.
Yeah. He's the only one who was shot by cops.
I mean, he knew that's what would happen because that's what would happen.
Right.
He's like, some of this is not satire.
Right.
Some of this is actually happening.
Yeah, it's like we were saying in an earlier episode, like, good satire, like it hits, like it touches on something relevant.
Dope in the middle of all the insanity. He was like, this is real.
Yep.
At that point, the movie's way off the rails, like AI off the rails, 2,000 years later off the rails. And I'm like, that's
too bad. On. That was a good moment, but yeah, that doesn't excuse the last 40 minutes of the movie.
No. And it's funny because as much as there has been a sort of progress in entertainment and some of the larger culture, I mean, there's the scene with the all-white writers roundtable, for example.
Yeah, they do kind of touch on the context of that as well.
Yeah, which is like, okay, like I feel as though we have moved on somewhat from that. But in other ways, like, I will say this, like, while I think that the movie is deeply flawed and yeah, it does completely go off the rails, it hit me when I was watching it. I was like, well, like it is relevant to today that like a bunch of black people die and then everybody just kind of moves on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. It's filmed on DV, so you can watch it over and over again on the internet. And it reminds me of another form of entertainment involving black people that was popular, and that entertainment was called lynchings.
Lynching, yeah. Which
people would set up picnics for and take their children to.
What's the riff tracks joke? Fun for the whole clan?
Mm-hmm. This great forms of entertainment we had.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, this was happening like yes, it was more common in the early part of the 20th century and before, but it's not to say that this kind of thing doesn't still happen.
Sure hasn't stopped happening the last time I checked.
Right. And maybe they sell fewer postcards, but let's not pretend it isn't still happening.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and it is, again, it's interesting to watch it 20 years later, but like in the context of like, all the protests and political uprisings of 2020, where it's like these are still perennial concerns. And it does hit me like every time I, like if you look at the lifespan of like black entertainers, where a lot of them like die younger than like white entertainers, and that's like not just the entertainers, it's like across like the black community in the United States. It's like black people in general have poorer health outcomes than white people.
Bing Rames like 54 or something? It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Rames is dead? What are you talking about?
Or the other guy.
You know, when
Good Lord!
Like I was looking up the
Who am I confusing him with then?
Michael Clark Duncan.
Thank you.
He was young.
Yeah.
And Zebo.
He's dead too. That's right.
Wow, Tim, conflating two black actors. Racist.
Oh, give me a break.
That's racist! That's the Wonder Shows.
I was trying to picture what he was from. Yeah, I completely forgot about Michael Clark Duncan. I memory hold him.
I will always remember Michael Clark Duncan because of
Kingpin from the Daredevil movie.
No, his very great magical Negro role in The Green Mile.
Oh, not Take My Hand, Boss.
Yeah, that's the Ving Rhames award thing is what confused me. I thought it was Green Mile.
That movie hurts too much.
Well, now there can be only one. So,
but yeah, black entertainers have been having notoriously short careers, whether it be poor health care, addiction, all the way back to Bill Bojangles, Penniless, and Billie Holiday, and Bessie Smith died in a car accident, and a lot of accidents and a lot of
misadventure.
Yeah.
And of course, funk artists in the 70s, 90s, who just got mowed down in the streets, and rappers in the 2020s who are getting shot.
Still doing that, huh?
A lot of it.
And it's interesting because, it
kind of tapered off, but it's back the big way again.
Well, because hip hop
mainly robbings, and getting robberies.
Hip hop has indisputably won the culture war in a way because rock isn't relevant anymore, and
except for Mars Volta and early 70s Genesis.
Right.
Hey,
and,
Jen, just because you don't like to party.
But I mean, you guys know what I'm saying. Hip hop is no,
it's the predominant culture that is still pretty much marketed as the hip culture.
Well, who's that guy who got robbed in his car and shot? Was he 6'9"? 9? Huh?
6'9", unfortunately, is still alive.
Damn.
But he has protection.
Yeah, he turned snitch.
You mean Tentacion and Nipsey Hussle and...
Thank you.
Let's see, who died? This young Dolph has died.
Where's the Wikipedia entry?
There's a lot of rappers that have died in the last year.
Yeah, but the point that I'm making is that in spite of the point that I'm making is in spite of hip hop's cultural dominance, these entertainers are still dying at an absurdly high rate. I think the only profession that entertainment profession that has a higher death rate is pro wrestling, or maybe pro wrestling is comparable. I'm not sure.
You would know. What about 50 Cent? Is he still alive?
He is producing hood soap operas for Stars.
Wow.
He's a mogul. He's Puffy now.
I guess
he's
he
the
did
TV
get rich.
mogul. Yeah, he does Power is very successful. He's on Power Book 2, which is slightly less successful. But Mary J. Blige and Method Man and some other people I've been told are putting good performances. Power is very addictive. You watch Power, you'll be like, oh man, I gotta watch some more Power.
You heard it here first. Power is addictive.
Power is addictive.
And that's what the show is for, folks.
But
letting you know.
Honestly, 50 Cent is better as a bad television mogul than he was as a studio gangster caricature. I know he was an actual gangster, but his rap songs were not actually his life. And I don't know if anyone heard any of that because I was talking in my croaking voice, but I didn't know.
I got it. Yeah.
Me personally, I was not a 50 Cent fan. I thought he was a parody of 90s rappers, and it was just
you're
for
right, because I remember his songs being pretty stupid.
Yeah, he was like if Small Soldiers did a gangster rap version.
Oh damn!
He broke out of the packaging and became a real
live boy,
real G, and made people beg for mercy. Also,
it's a lowercase
Master P's rap style. I don't why would you steal Master P's rap style?
Well, because you're Sean Combs. That's why. That's the other guy.
But yeah, I would think. Do you think Delacroix or De La, as they call him, which is sort of a reference? It's funny that there's no De La Soul in the movie, but they call him De La.
There is a reference to De La Soul, though.
No,
there's a reference to In Living Color.
Oh, because they're on
when Man Ray and Womack try to get into the building for their meeting with Delacroix, like one of the security guards is like, no, they don't remember his name, and so they're like De La something, and one of the security guards is like, there's no De La Soul here either.
Got him.
NWH niggas with hemorrhoids. God, I love that movie.
We should talk about that movie. That
God,
was great.
I love that movie. It's a masterpiece.
Master P. Oh, I get it.
Masterpiece Theater. I love it. And it's funny. The Revolutionaries. Alan Payne's revolutionary character in CD4 is probably more fleshed out than the Mau Mau's, and all he did was like buy a book and have a spiritual advisor walk around and make the "I'm Blackety Black and I'm Black Y'all" song, and he's still a more fleshed out character.
Yeah, and it's because like they do evoke Frantz Fanon in this movie, but it's like, oh, haha, like they're just saying his name to look woke. It's like,
and like when they actually do their raps, they're not real because there's actual political rap and revolutionary rap. Dead Prayer has more technique, etc., etc. But when their raps come on, it's word salad.
Yeah.
Socialistic revolutionary, blah blah. We the Mau Mau's get down, which was on purpose.
That'll teach them.
Because Spike Lee does not know much about the hippity hop culture past, I would say, the year knockin' boots was a popular phrase. Which would be the early
Maybe
90s.
He's trying to bring it back.
He did not.
Okay.
It was unsuccessful.
He doesn't seem to know TV pitchmen, too, because I noticed when Michael Rappaport is introduced, he gives kind of like the same selling pep talk that you see in like a James Wen movie. Where it's like, we aren't getting high enough ratings. Get higher ratings. Write better shows. All our shows are bad. Like,
Feed
all right.
the idiot box.
Yeah.
$10 million.
10 mil. Yeah, so like a lot of the characters are kind of like lacking in nuance on that level, which I think, kind of stems from the writer.
Which works when it's a comedy because they can be odd. But when you have them, like now they have to get into some sort of like, how? We haven't seen them be serious for 90 minutes.
Right, yeah, and you see, like, some of those scenes are played where it's like, you're waiting for, John Singleton to walk through and be like, message!
Message!
Because, like, get it? Yeah, it's like, here's Jada to do, like, an info dump on, like, minstrel shows or, like, the Gollywog, dolls or something like that.
Yep.
So
it just comes in pieces. And then it goes, and then you actually watch a taping of the show, and it's extremely offensive.
Right.
The most offensive part, I think I don't know if I remember people walking out, but I remember there being some really bad audience reactions when I saw it, when they went into the crowd and they were asking people if they were niggers, and there was like a Puerto Rican and a white woman and like, and they're all in blackface, the entire crowd. And you're just like, ugh. I know. I think there was some squirming in the seats when I saw that in the theater.
I could see that happening.
But the thing is that it's so, I mean, and this I will hand to Spike Lee. Like, as much as I was laughing during this movie, there were many moments where I was like profoundly uncomfortable for so many reasons. And I was like, you know what? Props, because like this should be uncomfortable. Right. And like the one guy who's like, yeah, I'm Sicilian. And it's just like, oh my God, here we go.
And like, are we doing this again? Yeah. But I mean, he has a Quentin Tarantino fetish, so.
Yeah. And you notice too that like, Jen, that, profound discomfort that you're feeling is reflected like when they do their first show. And I have to assume that those are genuine like audience reactions of people who didn't know like what they were seeing, because you see like
not have told them.
Yeah. It'd be like, hey, do you want to be a test audience for a show? And then, there's that woman kind of like nervously like rubbing the back of her neck, and, just like white people just like leaning forward, just like aghast, like not sure how to react. Like that.
Yeah. And then they cut to one black guy in the crowd who's just stone faced, like, just like, all right, like, I don't even know.
Yeah. Everyone's just kind of like, what do we do?
What happened? It's funny that the Wonder Shows and people saw that and go, "We should do that again."
Yeah, like I love making people uncomfortable. It's my my humor.
Did something very similar in Black Klansman, but it's somehow more successful and less successful because that movie has other issues because it's dripping with COINTELPRO propaganda. But that's a different movie. But the film, it's a similar thing that he does in that when he has really, really uncomfortable scenes and they go on really long. And you're like, are we supposed to be watching this? Ugh. Because he's infiltrated the Klan, so you have to hear all these conversations. I'm like, I feel icky.
Right, yeah. Turns out the Klan is not to be emulated or respected. So, I guess we probably aren't going to cover Birth of a Nation on this show then.
Sorry.
Ooh, there are clips from Birth of a Nation in this, including the infamous like post-Reconstruction scene and like the legislation. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. It's so bad.
Yeah, if the movie was made now, he would put in, like, Chappelle's Racism Fairy. Would be in from season 3 that caused him to walk off the show.
And it's funny because, like, that also came to my mind was, like, the whole story about, Chappelle, like, looking at, like, a white crew member who's, like, laughing a little too hard at a bit and being like, do I really want to keep doing this?
And Man Ray finally does that. He experiences that level of success, and then it's really Tommy Davidson's character leaves first, and he just can't take it anymore. He's traumatized.
Yeah, he kind of has that Chappelle, like, go to a farm in Ohio kind of moment.
Man Ray, Savion Glover's character, he's not as smart. I know he's asked if he reads, and he says he does not, and we all know about avid non-readers in their their capacity for analyzing the situations they're in. He's not as quick on the uptake.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Realize it until later.
Because the way that their characters are initially
But he's a fantastic dancer.
He is.
Yeah, like Saving Glover's character Man Ray, and eventually Mantan is, obviously like very gifted as a dancer, but Tommy Davidson is Womack, like he's kind of there to sell him because he's like, I got the brains, you got the feet, and which is fair, but I feel like the movie suffers a little bit for Saving Glover's character being like so like
behind.
Yeah, like it's like
are you following what's going on here?
Yeah, it's like I get that he's not like the fast talker and he's not necessarily informed.
Well, it's kind of the puppet of the whole.
I mean, I would say he's the most puppet-like character because he's pulled in every direction by pretty much every force in the movie, whether it's the executives or just needing money for the women or the people ahead of him, and then the fans. And it's funny when he comes out in blackface. I thought of the "I didn't do it" boy because he just I can't do this anymore, and he has a break. He refuses to come out, and they delay the show, and he says, "I'm not doing the makeup." And Pierre Delacroix says, they're going to hate you for this. And he goes out anyway, and it's just cricket.
Oh, yeah, and then he does spoken words. So, of course the audience is going to hate him.
They're like, you're not saying the line.
Say the line, Bart.
Yeah, he did not. He did woozle wuzzle. And then tap danced. And suddenly they didn't like tap dancing anymore. Like the spell was broken. They're like, we don't want to see a black man. We want to see these caricatures.
Yes.
Right.
Which is kind of the point, is that you want to, there's a quote from, I didn't look up, I'm bad at research.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's a James Baldwin quote, and the movie ends with a James Baldwin quote that doesn't kind of fit with the stupid stuff we just saw. Like if it dropped that an hour and a half in the movie, I'd been like, yeah. But he dropped but all those squibs necessary for that? But there's a line weird. About James Baldwin has about white people needing to come to terms with the nigger they've created in their minds, like black people in their heads.
Right.
It's different than what black people actually are. That's not a direct quote, but it's something about that. And basically, they don't want a black man. They want a tap dancing Sambo with big giant lips.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word that describes that.
You can say, Jen, abortion.
C and has two O's. That's what the audience wants. They want.
You can say coos.
Oh, goodness. I love that Forrest. I mean, Hollywood was notorious for like being like, you can't have sex, you can't have violence, but you can be virulently racist in a PG movie. And I remember
it doesn't hurt anyone.
Gump in the anniversary, I was like, this was the last time you could say nigger and coon in a PG-13 movie. Like, what a relic! 1994.
Look, it was a different time.
Set in Alabama, it's historically accurate.
Yeah.
Well, it's very weird because like yes, like in particular the N-word is like really like unacceptable at this point, but I feel like I still see it like all the fucking time on social media, and every week there's some
prevalent, and young people still think it's just like the fun hip thing to say.
Yeah, and like I'm not talking about like Black Twitter or whatever. I'm talking about people being like, well, why shouldn't I be able to say it? And
yeah, that's
like,
a whole
which
different.
Michael Rappaport does in the very beginning of the movie. Yeah,
exactly.
He is that character exactly.
He should just stick to being like, Ma, come look at this cat.
Ma, the fucking cat's back.
Yeah, so an ugly ass cat.
Right. And so yeah, his character is still relevant as people just sort of being like, oh, it's okay. I get to say
guy.
It. Yeah, because that guy is still here.
I mean, we talked earlier about like maybe Spike Lee sprung the minstrel show stuff on an unaware audience. We don't know, but did he explain to Michael Rappaport what he was doing, or was he like, "Hey, you just be you,
be yourself"?
Yeah,
give us more of that great Rappaport.
So like it's funny. His most performance that was most unlike him was when he had to play the skinhead in Higher Learning, because he's not like that at all.
Because he doesn't know anything about higher learning.
In real life, he's like the prototype for Malibu's Most Wanted. He was 10 years before the Don't Be Hating person. He was an actual person.
But yeah,
he would do celebrity rock and jock and be like, Queen Latifah took me to the hole. The basketball game.
Sorry, what, Tim?
No, so yeah, to your earlier point about like, confronting the, Negro which white America has created, or, however you want to put it, that is, the point of when the sort of veil is dropped from the show, and suddenly it's the audience has to confront, these really uncomfortable truths and this uncomfortable history that they'd much rather be able to sort of laugh off and put in this kind of prescribed entertainment space. Like that's, I feel like, is the point of the movie, but
and
we're
maybe
already
these things should be more aware, made aware, not as entertainment, but as things you teach in history or in school. Maybe
it might make some people in Arkansas uncomfortable. I don't know.
Oh
I think
dear!
Law.
Oh dear!
Yeah.
Oh well, let's have Jimmy Walker say dynamite in a Medicaid commercial instead.
Oh God!
That'll get the point. I mean,
that makes everyone uncomfortable.
Dynamite in there because that was a big thing. That was just like something that was funny that turned into a bad stereotype caricature, and now he's still doing it, and it's like old Krusty the Clown, like, whoa, dynamite.
Yeah, and I think
very
that
sad.
Because like Spike Lee was very critical of some of these shows, which were in their own way groundbreaking at the time, but could also be accused of maybe I'll beep it coonery.
Right.
Boys in Outer Space. That was
they mentioned that in particular.
Yeah. And The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer.
They said Pfeiffer, but I know we called it Pfeiffer. I don't know.
Nobody remembers those.
They shouldn't.
No. I don't remember that. I do remember Homeboys in Outer Space just because I'm like, this is a real show.
Year. Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer. He was like, wasn't he the assistant to Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, he was. It was like a period
Benson,
sitcom.
But it was the Lincoln administration instead of like some governor.
Yeah.
Oh, Krause, put that switch down. I don't know what the jokes were. I didn't watch. I don't know if they aired more than 3 episodes of that show.
Yeah, it's all about dysentery and quill pens.
I could.
I don't know.
Briefly, it's not connected to anything, but since this is a movie about minstrel shows, I'd like to plug a rap. This is my rap album plug.
Do it.
Little Brother, the Minstrel Show, which is magnificent. It was an album that came out in 2005 that the mainstream media powers that be thought would go over the audience's heads and kind of didn't promote, and it flopped. And now is regarded as a hip hop classic, of course, because it was great music. But it was the album. It wasn't the album cover, but they're smiling on the album cover, and there's a little logo of actual minstrels in the corner. And basically, their point was, even this hip hop thing is our minstrel show now, because they only want this certain kind of hip hop. So they do like an R&B sketch, and they'll do like the Diary of a Mad Black Daddy. The sitcoms. I mean, the rest of it's just like smart hip hop, but the skits in between it's a network called the You Black Niggas Network, and the programming is the rap album, but in between there's all these TV commercials for the shows, and it's that kind of thing. And BET notoriously saw one of the videos and said, "This is too intelligent for our audience," and refused to play it.
What do you even do in that situation?
They also did this with De La Soul a year before, so it was a thing they had done and continued to do.
Well, yeah, which kind of puts into perspective the bit in the movie, which is right before the Tommy Hill boop ad. Mm-hmm. The ad for malt liquor.
Yeah, malt liquor.
Isn't Exhibit in that? I think I saw Exhibit in that. There were so many rappers who would go on to whore themselves for major media money that were in that movie parodying whoring themselves for major media money. Like, yeah, Exhibit would never sell malt liquor. He'd much rather put fireplaces in the trunk of your car. And like, the Roots would never be the house band on a popular variety show. That's beneath them.
And that...
I only recognize Questlove because of Adult Swim, you know. Yeah,
well, that brings me.
That's where they got that idea.
That brings me to another point that I want to bring up, which is the theme in the movie about selling out, and I don't know. Like, I feel as though Spike Lee kind of. I mean, you know, he made. He made Malcolm X and everything.
Yeah, this is my thing with Spike Lee. I tried to divvy up the kinds of Spike Lee there are. There's Elite Spike Lee, which is really astute. It has a starting point and an ending point. It has a point.
Interesting.
It's not too blunt. It's like Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's mm-hmm. when he's firing all cylinders. It all works out, and you're like, that was a well-made product. Like, you really not. Then you got like the mainstream, like crowd-pleasing Spike Lee, who made Inside Man, which is just a heist movie. Does Old Boy count? Does Old Boy count as crowd-pleasing Spike Lee? I don't know if that made money or not.
Couldn't
the Old Boy remake.
I just know I like Summer of Sam. Even though there was no...
It kind of counts as crowd-pleasing Spike Lee, maybe.
Yeah. I don't think Summer of Sam made money, though.
There's another. I've had another thing I called White Spike Lee, which are the Spike Lee movies that don't have black people in them. So maybe that's Summer of Sam. That's not crowd pleasing. It's just like the white people movie.
Well, that's when like the sort of like New York part of him comes out.
Yeah, it's just about New Yorkers.
Yeah,
it's New York Spike Lee.
Maybe that's the subgenre.
And then there's just like completely awful Spike Lee, like Girl, where it's just there's just nothing. Like, don't watch this movie.
Right.
I'm not sure if The Sweet Blood of Jesus is that. I was informed that it might have not all been made by him. It might have been made by his film students in places, and he just put his name on it. But that's not true. Don't quote me on that.
Well, what I kind of want to get at is that
you kind of get all of those in this movie.
Yeah. Well, what I kind of want to get at with this particular point is that I feel like Spike Lee kind of understands these class issues a little bit, but kind of not, because like he
kind of enjoys his status in one of them, in one of those conversations.
That's a good observation.
He has picked.
Yeah, because like,
and that's not the side that the Paul Mooney character is on, because like he's marginalized, yes, but like he has his integrity.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to get at. Is
doing it on his own terms. He said those as what he emphasized. Those people are laughing with me.
Yeah, and
I tell my jokes, they're with me.
Yeah.
And the way he's presented in the movie, like his Pierre, his son, just does not fucking get it. He's like, what do you do with your life after
where'd
this?
Where'd you get that accent from?
Yeah, because it's very clear that his father, Junebug, is like perfectly happy to be like playing these kind of small clubs. Like he's doing okay. Like he's never going to be rich, and it's fine because he's doing material.
He's content.
Yeah, he has everything he wants out of life.
Yeah, and he's not doing material, which is kind of like shucking and jiving for like a white audience. It doesn't hurt his soul
when he lays down, and I'm thinking, why did I say that for attention and entertainment?
Right. Oh, man, that's me at the end of every podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So there is that, but
again.
But
feel good about the things you create. Okay. Whoops,
but there is like, which is like fine. Like, okay, we've got that scene, and it's like, okay, well, like if you're an artist with integrity, like,
and he kind
that's
of
fair.
looks down on Paul Mooney, but again, that's written in the script that he's an alcoholic. So he could have just been a comedian that likes to tour and enjoys his life and had a wife. But of course, he had to write in, "Oh, he's drunk."
No, I'm glad. I'm glad that you brought that up because, I kind of wanted to talk about how that theme relates in terms of Man Ray, but it also applies to Junebug because it's like, at first, because he has this monologue about how like he's basically content with his life, but then when like as the scene concludes, like Pierre and his father's girlfriend are kind of like hauling him back to his place, and he's just smashed. And I might be misreading it, but the scene feels like it has a little bit of a tone of like, well, look at this fucking alcoholic loser.
It's very demeaning. It kind of like he has this noble scene where you're like, this guy is making sense.
Yes,
and it's for me, it's like the center of the movie, that centerpiece. It explains Delacroix's motives. It explains what he's trying to do and not doing well, but it's successful because it's so lowbrow.
Yeah.
And what he wanted to do initially. We never get to see. He says he wrote a script that was a satire, and the Suits and Michael Rappaport made it funnier and jazzed it up, allegedly put all the offensive stuff in there, but we don't know what his original. It might have actually been satire. It might have been like the Eddie Murphy, Stevie Wonder, Cottonland SNL skit. I remember that when they had a theme park called Cottonland, and they pretended to be slave masters and made white people pick cotton. Theme park.
I don't remember that one.
Can you imagine Saturday Night Live doing things topical and like
wow.
Pointing?
Those were the days.
Only when Eddie Murphy's on the channel.
Well, and you mentioned that because it's shit. I lost my train of thought.
I didn't think, much of the, Paul Mooney being dismissed as an alcoholic because I'm like, oh, he's a successful touring comic. Of course he gets falling down drunk.
I'm kind of more talking about how like, I don't know, like I could be completely wrong. It's just that,
how his worldview is presented is a good one. And then they're like, oh, haha, he's a drunk.
Yeah. Like I kind of don't know.
In a way to me, the character was looking down on him, and also the movie kind of diminished what he had just said.
Like what you're saying, like Spike is still taking sides, and he's taking the sides
exactly. Because it's like
it's also how De La decides to pick sides in the movie. He's like, I didn't want this, but you know what? I'm going to get some awards now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
And if that's what you're about, then yeah, and I can see
he becomes Master P, Puffy, Suge Knight, and he was the puppet in the beginning, and then he decides he wants to be a puppet. But he's not very good
he sells out or he buys in, depending on how you look at it.
And
Jen, what were you saying?
Well, Sean's kind of summing up exactly what I'm getting at, and
sorry,
because because like I don't.
Yeah, why do we even have you on?
Stepped on all of your. Hey, I don't have notes for this.
Well, like I said, like I didn't know. Sometimes it's hard to know what Spike Lee is kind of getting at with this movie, and there are things that are on point. And then stuff where it's like I don't think you really get it, dude. Like, like the Mau Mau's kind of the treatment of Man Ray because he's not
in all of his movies. Like I was saying, there's the top, like Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing, where everything seems perfectly plotted out and organic and it all fits together. And then it's like Jungle Fever, which has these absolute brilliant conversations and intelligent pieces. and then like the worst ending you've ever seen in your entire life. And Bamboozled
is that the wake up ending?
No, that was School Days, which also
right.
has some good. That's more lighthearted. It's like it's basically Animal House. It's just a black college, but it has a unnecessarily didactic ending that doesn't make any sense. But the Jungle Fever ending. Jungle Fever has some amazing sequences, and also the marketing ploy of the interracial relationship is the least developed relationship in the entire movie. Every other character has a better. These Italian guys that talk at egg cream. The conversations are brilliant. The women, when the husband found cheating on them, they have about all these men ain't shit. They only want their white women. As soon as they get, I was like, these are all like things that are really going on and relevant. And then at the end, someone walks up and says, "I'll suck your big black dick for $2." And he grabs the prostitute and yells, "No!" And George Lucas said, "That's how I want to end episode 3."
Right. Yeah. Same basic arc. Yeah.
He's like, what? Why did you do that to your movie?
So you think that maybe like Spike Lee as the like auteur and A-list director maybe doesn't understand, like maybe at the ground level, sort of the working class black experience.
Also, he needs an editor because he writes a lot of this stuff himself. And it's kind of just, I wrote it. This is how it's going to come out. He doesn't have any executives over him punching it up, and that's good that he has autonomy, but he needs a color. I mean, I would say a lot of Malcolm X had some writing collaborations, and also was based on real life and books that have been written. Right. Yeah. There have been movies that we've covered that they kind of swing both ways in terms of network notes and maybe bringing in some artists. I can't pull out all of my tiers of Spike Lee, but I would say like he got games on the upper level because he understands again big business and how executives talk, and he knows all about the shoe industry and how they target athletes. He knows a lot about that world, so it was very well detailed and put together. But then like he does know the shoe industry. He did that ad with seemed like he was just doing a fantasy of like, I wonder what it would be like if my white coworker wanted to have sex with me. I bet she's racist though. It's like the imagination kind of has blind spots. He has a lot of maybe that screenplay he wasn't supposed to produce. He just kept it for himself. Mm-hmm. And like this, he kind of keeps typing and doesn't know where it goes, and so he has them get into melodrama and crime, and it's not the direction I thought it would go in. And the way that a lot of the stuff is portrayed is like you're kind of watching it like, yeah, Spike, we get it. And it's just because it isn't done with like any kind of subtlety or nuance. Saying that many, I don't know how many, I can't say an actual number, but many of the movies don't finish strong and don't stay on topic. This would be one of them. This was probably the Magnolia of that, like the epic. Like I don't know what like usually it's the wake up thing is like couple minutes at the end. Mm-hmm. The Jungle Fever thing is the final like 10 seconds. Like, what did you do to your movie? Like, you had it. You were home free. I was like, that was a really good. Wait a minute. It was due tomorrow. I didn't know. It was like just ran out of ideas. Off the, like you did it. You're home. Like he didn't. No. Like, oh my goodness. I highly recommend Jungle Fever, and I don't even recommend pressing stop 10 seconds before it happens. I'm like, you gotta experience it. It's the Spike Lee experience. Yeah, you gotta see how he just like absolutely shits his pants on the dismount. It's like, you were saying it's pretty heavy. By the end, it's so heavy he drops it. He's just like, oops, sorry, mother drops it all over the floor. Well, I'm done. Spilled his chili. Like I have this thing. There's some heavy-handed moments. Oh, it's too heavy. Oh shit!
The thing is that I will.
Not every movie, but when it happens, you know it. And you're like,
but this is the thing.
Yeah.
Because
Klansman kind of did that, but I don't know if that ending was heavy. I think he was just trying to like give me an Oscar, and they did.
And like Tim mentioned that, a lot of it is like, yeah, we get it, but as long as the movie is funny, like I accept it. It's just that when he moves away from humor in this movie. It's kind of like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing where it's tough to find like which side you want to fall on with the actual Bamboozled show, like in the movie, because it's like, if this is good and if it's entertaining and if it's like thought provoking, you can kind of get away with a lot. And it seems like maybe that's what happened with the show.
Like the racism should be funnier.
Right.
And I know they're doing actual things where those are jokes that exist, and they're doing actual routines from other performers.
Yeah.
And that kind of humor. If they're laughing over it, like, it should be funnier. Like, Dave Chappelle's racism was funny.
This is another thing that came to my mind when I was watching, and is what makes the movie still kind of hit and be uncomfortable like 20 years later. It's the, going back to the scene where they have that outside consultant saying like, okay, this is how you're going to sell this show when people are offended. It really, a lot of the points that she says, like, I have heard or even said myself about offensive material that I've discussed online or like on the show or whatever.
Yeah, like you can justify it however you want. She lays out a half a dozen different ways you can do that.
Yeah, and it kind of brings to mind like a movie that we talked about many episodes ago, Farewell Uncle Tom, which certainly has a lot of uncomfortable material in it. Like listening to Come Town, where, it's like, oh, well, it's offensive, but it's not like they really mean it. It's satire.
Or 1980s Eddie Murphy stand-up that still plays on Showtime at 3 p.m.
Then they come back with that AIDS on their lips, right?
Now, Delirious, they took it off Netflix. It doesn't play during the day anymore. It plays late at night, though. But Raw, in the middle of the day, it'd be like, I can't.
Right, and that's they kind of
like, you're playing this at 3 p.m.
and they kind of like hit on that too when he's giving that interview, that radio interview, where they're talking about what is it like? Is it? Are you calling it like offensive, or is it sacrilegious, or is it just art? And maybe that's kind of him spinning the show, but. And I don't know. I mean, there is kind of there's some validity to that. Like, you aren't going to like all art, and some stuff that you might be offended by, other people gravitate towards for, reasons that you may or may not agree with.
Yeah. And the thing is that I really feel like it could go either way but in Bamboozled, like, don't forget that, that Pierre created the show like as a troll.
In bad faith, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He wanted to get fired. But, death of the author, like, as it kind of gets out there, it's like, could you possibly spin this as like, oh yeah, this is satire? And it really, it did actually make me wonder about a lot of stuff that I have defended or like, been like, oh, come on, like, you guys, like, there's obviously a message here and blah blah. It's like, hey, and frankly, I'll say it, like, I'm just a dumb bitch with podcasts. Like, I'm wrong all the time.
Yeah, and I'm there to remind you of that.
American Beauty went back into regular rotation on the movie.
But then, I mean, like, it isn't even like it is. I think it is noble that you're acknowledging that there is that gray area. Neither black nor white.
Good white people.
Yeah, you are. Well, you're okay. But and
Sean, please say I'm cool. Please say I'm cool. Please.
I guess.
So
I gotta send you some more Cartier God first.
I mean, that's a pretty good endorsement. Pretty good, I guess. But yeah, like, the movie doesn't, apart from sort of cozying up to being like media mogul social climbers, the movie doesn't really present, one side or the other, because Jen, in particular, you talk about, that moment of self-doubt where you're like, oh, am I like part of the problem, basically?
Mm-hmm.
But you see that the movie will also like take issue with the people who are raising a stink about it. Like, I mean, there may be valid art that they've got Al Sharpton and Johnny Cochran out protesting.
They kind of don't delve into the protests at all. They're going to be protests. Mm-hmm. They warn about the protests. They have a focus group protest, and then it's just a montage.
The one, yeah,
of Al Sharptonisms.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, they're like,
and they just dismiss it.
You know what? Yeah, because it's that
outside.
Because it's that like Hollywood liberalism kind of thing where it's like, oh, like, you know, look at these people bitching, even though like
what's important is, did you sleep with Dayla? I don't want to.
Yeah.
Get to this. What's really important here?
But they describe Al Sharpton and Johnny Cochran, who like they aren't like, I don't know, they're charlatans of their own brand, and you know they describe them in the movie. They're like opportunists. They love to be on television. So the people who have a problem with something,
I'm sure nobody in 2000 thought that rabble rouser with the perm would be on MSNBC all day.
Right? Yeah. So
and
like
skinny.
A mainstream newsman.
Yeah. So they've kind of found their angle into, you know, to feed at this trough in the same way that
is.
Yeah. So you kind of got to wonder like what the motivations are of people on either side of this.
I thought it was it's pretty telling that Johnny Cochran still appeared in it, and they talked about the OJ verdict at length.
Right.
People did talk about how they felt about the OJ verdict, and they just laid it out there. And yeah, it's pretty much.
I'm pretty sure he was fine getting paid.
What I did?
Yeah.
Did it?
I mean, that really was like a great psychic wound for America.
Like, I remember that.
Yeah, and maybe it's kind of passing into history a little bit, but I don't know.
Well, now he's like posting videos from bars congratulating the 49ers.
It's very
now.
It's and you know, I don't
follow him for jokes.
That's the thing. I was
want to see what OJ's doing.
Yeah, because I know that on Twitter I don't normally like to follow police, but the amount of mutuals I have who are like irony following OJ Simpson is like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, maybe
than you think.
But hey, maybe the detective from who rescued the Mazes Monsters kid, maybe he's right, and OJ's son actually did it.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
All I know is they never stopped playing Naked Gun on television, so he was never canceled.
Good, no harm done.
Why would you take that away from Leslie Nielsen?
Never. All three of them still play regularly. Well, the third one's not that great, but they still play it.
There you go.
OJ.
But we're just, I can't believe that we're talking in this denigrating way about a successful black man.
Right, yeah. Why is it always, successful, every successful black show gets criticized, We're talking about,
I'm just
Naked
annoyed
Gun.
that I have to watch the Gang Makes Lethal Weapon 5 episode of Always Sunny on like a Daily Motion site because I can't get it on the streaming channel. Speaking of blackface, it's still kind of controversial.
Yeah, that's right.
That wasn't that long ago. And they just did a new episode about it, a follow-up.
Oh, yeah, and also you can't see the D&D episode of Community.
Mm-hmm. It's like Season 3, Episode 8, Season 3, Episode 10. Wait a minute. It's like No Track 5.
Yeah, No Track 5.
What the hell? Where's Season 3 episode? Whatever it is.
Right.
And
like Fear of Fours.
Yeah,
and I think here's kind of how we can wrap it up. Like, and again, like I might be wrong, but as uncomfortable as a lot of the material in this movie is, like for example, all that really malignant memorabilia of the I won't say it, the bank that Sloane gifts to Pierre, for example, but all that, like all those really awful products, which are just grotesque caricatures of black people.
Just merchandise.
I mean, it's
and all
bad.
Through the credits too.
And yeah,
and it definitely was created to reinforce that. This is the image of someone who's a servant, who's a piece of property, who's just an object.
It was a whole industry,
even more.
Yeah, and
they'll hold your money, and because they don't know how to count it, they'll just put it in their mouth. OTV.
Yeah, it's bad stuff. It feels bad to look at it. It's still still hits you when you see it, just like that. Ugh. And I feel that it is still a good idea to look at that stuff like head on.
It should be, I would say.
Yeah, with the caveat that it needs to be contextualized.
I think it should be studied and taught in a meaningful, like an intelligent way, and presented, and not ignored.
Only should then be grossly misinterpreted.
But that's the point of the movie, is that it should not be presented as entertainment, but it should be known as historical fact that this was a thing that continued.
Yeah. And really, to be aware of America's history, is that too much of an ask?
So do you want to know what happened?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I find that just fascinating.
Kind of learn from their past awful mistakes and make sure they don't happen again, or try to.
It's never been addressed.
Teach about it, put up monuments and museums, and you think there's a couple in America. There's the Rainbow. I don't know if that counts.
It's kind of funny how, like, the line is like, oh, liberals are just crybaby snowflakes and they just want to cancel everything. And then it's like, okay, well, we're going to cut out whole swathes of our history that are, like, actually very relevant to today, because it makes us feel bad to talk about it.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
So I will say that...
Did anyone figure out why Drake did blackface? I don't know the story behind that. I know there's a picture.
I remember the photo. I don't know what his justification was.
I don't know. He was a Nickelodeon actor, so it's a step away from being Mantan.
It's green slime face. It's
I don't know. I don't know why he did it, but he was young then.
It kind of I don't even want to touch the subject of Drake. Like, I just. Is he still texting Millie Bobby Brown?
I have no idea. Probably.
Ugh.
With via the tattoo he has of her.
Well, who was the person that tweeted that it's like when America's so racist that when you point out racism in America, people interpret that as an attack on America.
Yeah.
And that's what you see a lot of in this.
Nails it on the head right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, again, if you're speaking of great psychic wounds to the country, it's a pretty big one. And the use of, it isn't just Birth of a Nation. There's like so much footage in this movie, but like the Birth of a Nation footage is like particularly apt, maybe just because that movie was so popular and influential. And it's, if you look at it, like, if you've actually seen any of Birth of a Nation, like, a lot of it's like, oh, okay.
Like, the filmmaking techniques that were used were like, what are you doing?
Yes.
I've done this before.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you look at it and you're like, wow, like, this is good filmmaking. Like, I understand why
filming a
Griffith
stage play
was so popular. And then you see the post-reconstruction scenes, or you see the guy all blacked up chasing Dorothy Gish or whatever, and you're like,
mise-en-scène in moving pictures?
Oh my God! Like,
well, maybe that is kind of the problem, is that you have mise-en-scène, you have great art, and you also have a like heaping helping of just casual racism, where it's like you can't disentangle the two to the point where it's like, I don't know which of these to throw out. I don't want to throw out the thing that I like, but that doesn't mean keeping the thing that is like actively harmful to large swaths of the population and the national psyche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. It's like I'm not like I'm not a censorship kind of person. Like I don't understand why people get angry when about like content warnings and that kind of thing, because it's like, okay, well, they didn't cut anything out of the movie. Like, it's still complete, and they're still like, hey, we know this kind of sucks. It's bad. Like, be careful. Yeah. So
we're talking about Bamboozled, that they should have cut stuff out of the movie, because I got a list.
Well, that's the interesting thing.
20 or 30 minutes.
Because another thing about Bamboozled is the fact that it's 2 hours and 10 minutes. And when you guys both mentioned, did Spike Lee warn the audience at the Mantan show, like, you're going to see some offensive shit, or did he just, like, let it play out so he could get genuine reactions? It did make me wonder, like, hey, like, what was left on the cutting room floor? Because they were running, like, if they were running up to 15 cameras at a time, like, how much footage do you think they got? And it's like, God, this movie could have been even longer.
I hope you did not prepare those audiences at all. Although, I mean, looking at the poster, I think the poster pretty well prepares you for what's in store.
Yeah.
I mean, sure,
maybe the very first taping.
Yeah.
The pilot taping. The other ones, I think that was, yeah.
That's all actors, yeah.
Before we wrap up, I do have a question for you guys. So when I
am against racism. Why do you keep asking me that, Jen?
Do I do
my I am against racism shirt is never mind. I can't do the Twitter reference because I'm stupid.
Fine.
No, I don't do whiteface anymore. If that's what you're gonna have.
It's just dead presidents kind of shit. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. It's culturally relevant.
When I cut together the podcast, of course, like, I always choose, instead of just putting up the logo photo for the show, I like to choose something which is relevant to the movie. And I'm like, okay, well, what image am I going to choose to represent Bamboozled? Like, am I being problematic if I were to use, say, the poster art for this movie? Like, can I do it? I literally don't know.
You let the art stand on its own merits.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what the movie's about in a way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, on our website, we can put up whatever we want because it's your hosting. But, like, will we get pulled off like Spotify or Google Podcasts if we put up like this little pickaninny with watermelon?
We'd have to be noticed first before anyone.
Maybe that's why they couldn't market that Little Brother movie, because there was a little guy with gloves and smiling and blackface in the corner. It was just a drawing.
I mean,
it wasn't the actual rappers weren't doing it. It was just a drawing in the corner.
People really uptight about this stuff for some reason.
You're out of there, man. You're out of there. If you want to have the most like racist caricature as the cover, you should just put Michael Rappaport's picture.
Oh, the people report that. They will mass Rappaport that.
They're like, oh,
I'm going to put, you know what? I'll just put a picture of that real ugly cat.
116 black.
Yeah.
Put the ones where Man Ray is like, all like up in the camera with like, smiling and everything with doing the jazz hands.
And I'll just be like, hey, this is a black man in blackface. Or you could
even do the spoken word Man Ray, where he comes out in his regular clothes.
Do a still of Jada doing that thinking face that we remember from Nutty Professor.
I always say, when in doubt, go with Paul Mooney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people love him.
Paul Mooney, R.I.P.
Or you could just do the clip of Malcolm X that's in there that reminds you what movie you're seeing.
Oh, yeah. I do love the audacity.
Better movie in this.
I do love the audacity of Spike Lee quoting himself.
That it wouldn't be a Spike Lee movie otherwise.
Yeah, that's true. But like what? Because for so long, like, I mean, like, real talk, like before, like, mainstream culture fragmented so much. It's like, what representation did we have for black artists in like mainstream culture? It's like black filmmakers, Spike Lee, and maybe John Singleton.
John Singleton.
Think of another one.
Did people know who the Hughes brothers was? I'm
just corpsing because I can't think of one.
Following, but it's Menace to Society is still huge.
I thought it was Menace 11 Society.
No, it is not. It opens at a 7-Eleven of sorts.
Okay.
Society, I don't know if it's the Hughes brothers, but there isn't really one. It's just those markers. Like, the markers are the people that learned about black people from Eddie Murphy stand-up. The people that learned about black people from Chris Rock stand-up.
Hello.
The people that learned about black people from Dave Chappelle's stand-up. You could just go from like comedy show to comedy show.
Yeah.
Living Color's in there somewhere. I don't know. It would now be Blackish, or would now be Atlanta. Ugh, those are our choices.
Hey, Jen, let's get Keith Knight on the show.
Hurry, someone ask again. Maybe the Eric Andre show.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. At that point, it's all fragmented.
Yeah, like the culture is shattered.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any one thing. Even rap music.
Yeah.
Like, you listen to that new Nas? No. Did you listen to the new Jay-Z? No. Did you listen to it? But this group listen to that. This group listens to J. Cole? No.
That's why I don't listen to rap music. The only reason. Too fragmented.
I think the episode has fragmented as much as the culture and has become as diffuse as the movie Bamboozled.
Wow, yeah, it's meta. We can't end the show either.
Damn you, Spike! No!
Why do you do this?
Well, what do we think of Bamboozled? I personally think it is still worth a watch, and it did make me laugh really fucking hard a few times. I don't know if that makes me like that white crew member on the Chappelle's show, but like,
I think that if you're thinking about it, probably not.
Yeah, you're not just laughing at the crackhead,
flawed,
right?
But it's an excellent premise that's excellently executed to a point.
Yes,
and then the flaws just kind of collapse in on themselves and become one big flaw.
A sort of mega flaw.
If you watch this movie, when you watch this movie, you're gonna watch it and you're gonna go, "This is really good. I don't know what they were talking about." And then at a certain point, you're gonna realize 20 minutes have gone by, and your eyes have glazed over.
That tracks with my experience. Yeah,
you're like, how did we get here?
Like, what happened to that good movie I was watching?
This is really good. What is it? Huh?
It just kind of snuck out the back, and you didn't even notice.
And it's even the same characters doing the same things. And you're like, this isn't working anymore. And you're not uncomfortable. You're just, I don't want to say.
Yeah, well,
you're. I don't know if you're not numb. It's kind of like, okay, where is this going?
Well, I think the takeaway, what everyone else would say to Spike Lee, you should stick to comedy.
You know what?
Damn.
Like,
or Inside Man.
Sean made a really good point, because like when the movie is comedic, like you are thinking,
it's
like you're
like,
like,
hell.
Why am I? You're like, wow, like I'm so uncomfortable, and like, should I be laughing at this? And what does this mean about like our current culture and blah blah blah? And then when it goes into soap territory, it's like, what?
Because he's good at mocking contemporary, because he knows about that life and what they put in commercials to market to. Because he made Nike commercials, he films music videos, he knows about that whole world. And
the one with Rob
we
Liefeld.
Want the young people to think this is.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that shit.
Yeah.
Well, and let me leave you all.
He knows about that world, but does he know about a world where somebody? Well, he might actually know about a world where he might actually know about a world where a young, enterprising female assistant has a slip up and things go too far with. I don't know. I have no basis in fact here, but
not Spike.
Maybe that's the only kind of relationship he knows is a melodrama. And then they are in a relationship and they have an argument. That's what happens in relationships, right?
Let me leave you all with this. Spike Lee has made a short film shilling NFTs. So,
God.
Bam!
At least it's short.